What if the very thing that feels like it's breaking you is actually the one thing that can make you whole? This is a truth the heart knows, but the mind fights. Most people will skip this video looking for a quick fix for their pain, but the final message contains the key that turns struggle into unshakable strength. And without it, the cycle will just repeat. Please don't miss it. The illusion. There is a way that we are taught to relate to pain, a way that we are taught to see hardship. We see it as an intruder, as an enemy at the gate. The moment it arrives, a signal goes off in our mind and in our body, a signal that says, this is wrong, this shouldn't be here. And so we brace. We clench our jaw, we tighten our shoulders, we hold our breath. Our entire being becomes a fortress designed to keep this unwanted visitor out. We declare war on our own experience. We believe that if we fight hard enough, if we distract ourselves enough, if we numb ourselves enough, we can win. We can push the hard times away and get back to the good times, to the easy path. But have you ever noticed that this war is exhausting? It's a battle that takes every ounce of your energy, yet the intruder never really leaves. It just waits for you to lower your guard, and then it returns, sometimes even stronger. This is the great illusion. The suffering doesn't come from the hardship itself. It comes from the war we wage against it. It comes from our fierce, desperate resistance to what is. The mind is a powerful storyteller. When difficulty arrives, the mind begins to spin a narrative. It tells you, you are not strong enough for this. You are failing. This pain will never end. Something is deeply wrong with you for feeling this way. It compares your current state to a memory of a better past or a fantasy of an easier future. And in that gap between what is and what the mind says should be, a chasm of suffering opens. We become so entangled in this story, so convinced of its truth, that we can no longer distinguish it from reality. We forget that these are just thoughts, mental constructions, not the unshakable truth of our being. The story is the illusion. The pain is just a raw sensation, a pure energy in the body, but the story turns it into a monster. It gives it a name, a history, and a terrifying future. And we end up fighting a phantom, a ghost created by our own thinking. The true practice of finding strength isn't about learning to fight better. It's about learning to see through the story. It's about having the quiet courage to stop believing every thought that promises you fear. What would happen if, just for a moment, you laid down your weapons? What if, instead of fighting, you simply allowed the feeling to be there? This is not the same as giving up or being passive. It is a profound act of courage. To sit with a difficult emotion means to gently turn your awareness toward it, to notice where it lives in your body. Is it a tightness in your chest? A hollowness in your stomach? A fire in your throat? Don't analyze it, don't judge it, and don't try to fix it. Just observe it with a kind of gentle, detached curiosity. Imagine you are holding space for a frightened child. You wouldn't yell at the child or tell it to go away. You would sit with it, offer your quiet, steady presence, and let it know that it is safe to feel what it is feeling. Can you offer this same compassion to your own pain? Can you breathe into that tight space in your chest? Not to force it open, but to let it know it is seen and held? This simple shift in relationship from one of resistance to one of acceptance is where the illusion begins to dissolve. So much of our resistance is rooted in the ego's desire to maintain a certain image. The ego wants to be seen as strong, capable, and unaffected by life's challenges. It believes that vulnerability is weakness. When hardship arrives, the ego panics because this experience threatens its identity. The feeling of being not okay contradicts the ego's story of being fine. And so it fights. It builds walls of denial, anger, or blame. It pushes people away who might see its cracks. It creates an outer shell of competence while an inner world is crumbling. But this is not strength, it is brittleness. A tree that is too rigid in a storm is the first one to snap. The tree that bends, that yields to the force of the wind, is the one that survives. True strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It is the courage to be vulnerable. It's the ability to admit, this is hard, I am hurting, and to allow yourself to be supported, both by your own inner presence and by the love of others. When we release the need to appear strong, we paradoxically find access to a much deeper, more authentic and resilient strength that was there all along. The ultimate illusion is time. The mind drags us into the past, replaying our hurts, or it catapults us into the future, rehearsing our fears. But the hardship itself is only ever happening right now, in this present moment. The actual physical sensation of your pain is only here. The rest is memory and projection. The story. When you can gently guide your awareness back to the here and now, something profound happens. You might notice the feeling in your body, yes, but you might also notice the feeling of your feet on the floor, the sound of the room around you, the simple, steady rhythm of your own breath in and out. In the vast space of the present moment, the pain is just one part of your experience. It is not everything. It doesn't have to consume your entire reality. By anchoring yourself in the now, you stop feeding the story with your attention. The monster of suffering, starved of its food source of past regret and future anxiety, begins to shrink. It becomes what it always was, just a sensation, just an energy passing through. It is not you, and you are not it. You are the still, silent awareness that is witnessing it all. This is the beginning of freedom. The alchemy. Once we stop fighting the reality of our pain, we create the conditions for a sacred process to begin. This is the alchemy of the human spirit. Alchemy was the ancient art of turning lead into gold. Our inner alchemy is the process of transforming the heavy, dense lead of our suffering into the shining gold of wisdom, compassion, and strength. This is not a mental trick or a form of toxic positivity. It is not about pretending the lead isn't lead. It is about working with the lead. It is about seeing the hardship not as a random, meaningless affliction, but as the very raw material needed for your soul's deepest work. Without pressure, carbon never becomes a diamond. Without the churning of the ocean, a simple grain of sand never becomes a pearl. And without walking through the fire of our challenges with awareness, we never discover the unshakable essence of who we are. The difficult times are the crucible. Your presence is the heat, and the gold is the strength that is forged within you. The first step in this alchemy is to drop out of your mind and into your body. The body holds the truth. It does not lie. It holds the score of every experience. So when you are in a hard time, bring your attention to your physical self. Where is the feeling? Locate it with gentle precision. Now, can you breathe into that space? Imagine your breath is a warm, loving light. On the inhale, you gather your presence. On the exhale, you send that warm, loving light directly into the center of the tightness, the ache, the emptiness. You are not trying to push the feeling away. You are meeting it. You are surrounding it with your conscious, loving attention. You are infusing it with breath and with life. This act changes the very quality of the energy. What was once a dense knot of pain can begin to feel a little softer, a little more spacious. It's like pouring warm water onto frozen ground. You do it slowly, gently, breath by breath. This is not about achieving a goal. The practice itself is the destination. Each conscious breath you take with your pain is a moment of turning lead into gold. Radical acceptance is the catalyst for this transformation. Acceptance does not mean you like what is happening. It does not mean you condone it or want more of it. It simply means you stop arguing with reality. There is a deep peace that comes from this surrender. The moment you say, this is what is here right now, a tremendous amount of energy that was being used for resistance is liberated. Imagine trying to hold a giant beach ball underwater. It takes all of your strength, all of your focus. The moment you let go, the ball gently rises to the surface, and all of that energy is returned to you. Letting go of the fight with reality is like that. You suddenly have all this new energy available. Energy that can now be used for healing, for self-compassion, for taking the next small, gentle step forward. This acceptance is the key that unlocks the door. It allows the pain to move, to shift, to transform. An emotion is just energy in motion. It's our resistance that freezes it and keeps it stuck. Acceptance thaws it, allowing it to complete its natural course and move through you, leaving wisdom in its wake. This is how we discover our hidden resources. In the easy times, we use our surface level strength. It's enough. But in the truly difficult times, we are forced to dig deeper. And what we find there often surprises us. We find a well of resilience we never knew we had. We find a capacity for patience that we never had to exercise before. We find a depth of compassion for ourselves and for others who are suffering that could only be born from having walked through the fire. The hardship excavates you. It strips away everything that is not essential, everything that is not truly you. It takes your false notions of strength, your ego attachments, your illusions of control, and it burns them away. And what is left? You are. The real you, the quiet, observant, loving presence at your own core. The strength you are seeking is not something you need to build. It is something you need to uncover. It has been there all along, buried beneath the surface. The hard times are simply the spade that does the digging. In the end, every difficulty holds a gift. This is not to say we should be thankful for the pain itself, but we can be profoundly grateful for the growth it makes possible. When you have walked through a dark valley and found your way with awareness, you don't just return to the person you were before. You are different. You are deeper. Your heart is more open, your spirit more resilient. You develop a quiet confidence, not because you believe life will always be easy, but because you know you have the capacity to meet whatever comes your way. You have faced the lead of your own suffering and learned how to hold it with love until it revealed its gold. You now carry a light that cannot be extinguished because it was forged in your own darkness. This is the purpose of the journey: to turn struggle into strength, wounding into wisdom, and pain into the most profound and unshakable peace. This strength is not a loud, aggressive force. It is a quiet, inner knowing. It's the steadfast peace that comes from having met the very worst of your fears and discovering that your conscious presence was bigger than all of them. It is the ability to sit in the storm, feeling the wind and the rain, yet remaining anchored in the deep, unshakable earth of your own being. It is the freedom that comes from no longer needing the world to be different than it is for you to be okay. It is a strength born not of resistance, but of profound embrace. For those who stayed for this whole journey, which part of this message did your heart need to hear the most today? Be gentle with yourself in the comments.